Hey, what's going on, YouTube? We are here today to talk a little bit about this new Clash of Wills shop that just opened up. What was it, yesterday that this opened up? With these new abilities, the pop-up shop that, you can rebuy all of the Clash of Wills special shop abilities that have been available for the past several months. And with me here to talk about these and try and rank them in like order of priority is Sketch, who I have come to appreciate the wisdom of and the insight of quite a bit as I talk about gearing units and planning for things. So Sketch, I'm glad you're here to talk about this with me.
Oh, thanks for having you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope everybody is having a good get ready for the holiday season time. Got a bunch of stuff coming up, obviously with Monday and all, and yeah, this shop has some really cool stuff in it.
It does, and what's why it's worth talking about this shop in particular is because these abilities are really cool, and some of them are very, very powerful. But I think that the price on them is a little expensive. So like each one of these costs 1,000, and I mean you can see my Xenostone total up on the top of the screen. I've got 10,900, and I've gotten rank 1 pretty much every Clash of Wills since Kaito came out, and I don't like go crazy buying recipes. So like to me, for me to buy out a couple of these is going to cut down my stock available very, very significantly. How much Xenostone do you have?
I have like right under 8K, so like around 7,800. Like I wish I had more, because I own most of these already. I would like more copies, because if you own them, you can still buy them again.
Mm-hmm. And some of them we're going to talk about here are very much so worth having multiple copies of. We're going to start ranking these in just a second, but I just want to point this out to you before we get into the actual ranking. If you go into the news and scroll down to like the any Clash of Wills entry and scroll down to like the parts where it talks about the gear and stuff like that, you can see that the total Xenostone shards required to fully upgrade a piece of gear up to just plus 10, like the 10th star rarity, is a 3,500 investment of Xenostone. So for like let's say next month, for example, we get a totally new item. So like instead of let's say we get a shield next month, right? Maybe not the best option, but let's say we get a shield. As opposed to just buying like an upgraded version of the ring or an upgraded version of the chest piece or something like that, if we have to start out with a brand new item, that's going to require a 3,500 investment plus whatever the advanced recipes are, assuming they come out right away. Usually those are a little delayed, but still, like, that's a pretty big chunk. So for me, that would drop me down to like 8K. And you would drop you down to like the 4K area. So when you think about like these abilities costing 1,000 each, knowing that potentially next month you need 3,500 to get started on a new piece of gear, it kind of puts it in perspective, like what you want to get and maybe what you don't want to get, or like how much you want to sink into this shop. I think. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so like if you want to like keep upgrading gear, like it's really weird, because we never know when they're gonna add pluses, when they're gonna give us new gear. Like we haven't had like a new piece of gear in like a decent bit. Like I've been asking for a hat for a while.
Like an attack
like an
magic
offensive hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an attack magic hat for like a really long time.
Yeah.
So like it's weird, because like I want to be prepared for that as soon as it drops, because I've been wanting it for a while. But like some of the options in the shop kind of are, if we don't get it, right, those are going to be way more valuable overall than like pieces of gear to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the different, like one of these, like for example, one of these killer materials to me is worth more to an account than increasing a piece of gear from the regular version of the gear to a plus version.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely talk about those, and we'll talk more about some theories and some ideas about how you might be able to like plan for the future in a little bit. I figured we should probably get into ranking some of these items. So we're gonna take these materials and we're gonna put them into one of 5 categories. Either S for must have, you must have this. A is just that it would be very nice if you had it. B is that it's probably pretty good, but maybe serves a very singular purpose and is only going to be, you know, kind of a niche item. C is like one that's completely replaceable. Like you can replace it with other free gear or TMRs or STMRs or stuff like that. And then D is just like one that's like, please do not bother spending your Xenostone on this. And we're going to be approaching these items from the perspective of, what if you don't have any of these? Like, what if you just happen to have a stash of like, you know, 5, 6K Xenostone, and you don't have any of these abilities, and you're just kind of thinking about dipping your toes into this shop, and like, you know, what would you focus on? It's kind of where we're gonna be starting. So let's actually dive right into the very first one, and I'm gonna pull it up on screen. The top one on the list is Reclaimed Serenity. So Reclaimed Serenity is 50% defense and spirit with 60% resistance to ice, thunder, light, and dark. So, Sketch, you were just saying before we got started that you think kind of these like resistance ones with the stats are like not your favorites. What is it that you don't like about this one?
So basically with how fights work, right? It really depends on like where you're at as like your account, right? So like we're talking about people not having any of these, right? I personally would think that compared to other things in the shop, that this kind of thing is more coverable by other gear, because we don't get a lot of trial-based fights anymore, where this is more of a necessary thing, right? If we were getting trials all the time, then I'd be like, okay, so we have like more reason to get this kind of gear, because you might have very high resist demanding fights, right? There are some, like this Clash of Wills has really high demanding resist fights, right? However, if you are desperately in need of this gear to the point that you would get it, I don't know if your account could clear that level of the fight anyway, right? So like I think you are personally, for what we were talking about, have a better chance of getting somewhere with other things on the list. And the reason I'm not so big on these is because I feel like if you are a lower and newer player, this isn't going to get you across the line. And if you are a not newer player and you're like a long stage vet, you have, even if it's like slightly worse, comparable gears compared to this.
Okay. I do agree that like for a new player, like staying in fights for long periods of time to the point where like you have these resistances to be able to endure the fight is probably not a very manageable strategy. Like for a brand new player, it's better just to kind of like hit it really hard and like have your best defense be your offense. I agree. So like I still though think that 4 resistances at 60% and the defense and spirit buffs is, I would say, very valuable. So like for a new player who does not have this at all, if you're considering it, I would still say this is a pretty decent pick, but maybe not must have.
Yeah, I would probably, like, you could maybe talk me into the bottom of very valuable. This is like more of a niche thing to me, because like when it comes up, it's going to, when the resist lineup, it's going to be very, very good, right? But like, how often is that going to happen, right? Like, there's a chance it could be in very valuable, because if those resist line up against multiple of the trials, which I would have to cross-check, right? If it does, then like maybe it's, while it's not as valuable to me as other things on this that we're going to get to on this list, it could be very valuable if you are a new account working on trials.
Okay.
Right? So I would have to cross-reference a trial list, and that would take like a really long time.
Okay.
But immediately comes to mind is like, it's niche to me because like when this is good, it's going to be one of the best things that you have, period.
Okay. I'll grant you that. And I would say too that like defense and spirit 50% is not a totally rare thing. You know, you could definitely get that from other sources. And so I guess in that sense, niche makes a little more sense. So, you know, despite how much I love this, and by the way, I have 2 copies of this. I don't know how many copies you have. We're gonna go ahead and put it in niche.
I have. Now we could always like move things later, right?
Absolutely.
Like maybe like
this is not set in stone.
Maybe like could easily be talked into like something else. But yeah, I have 2.
Okay.
I have most of the things on this list.
Okay. Most of. I'm guessing though this next one is one that you don't have. Now, Way of the Samurai. I actually have 1 copy of this. This has HP 15%, MP 15%, attack 60%, 30% to all stats when you equip an Esper. This is bonus stats, not like regular stats. And then 20% additional attack if you happen to be wearing a katana.
This is garbage.
Yeah, this is like so replaceable. And I think because so replaceable, like you could replace this better with like one thing, if not two things. Like you could replace this with 2 slots and get better value out of those 2 slots than this 1 slot here. So like, I would say that this is not even worth the 1,000 price tag on it. Like I would say skip this completely.
This is the worst thing in the entire shop, and I don't think it's close.
Okay, we agree.
Also, like, spoiler alert. This is the thing that I don't have.
Yes, yes. This is it. This is Sketch's thing. And like I said, I have 1 copy. I don't even know why I have 1 copy of this. Like, I guess it was probably one of those things where like it happened to be available in a shop, and I had like extra leftover currency or something like that. I don't know why I have a copy of this, but I do.
I think it might have actually been the very first Clash of Wills. These might actually be in canonical order. I didn't check that, so like don't check me on that. But like that I'm actually have been the first Clash of Wills, and you might have been like, well, you never know, we might need this because we like there's a large amount of power creep since the first Clash of Wills. So like maybe you were just like,
hold
maybe
on,
I could use
let's
this
see.
at some point.
Reclaimed Serenity, FFBE. Where did this come from? The first place you could get this was a premium summon via an exchange shop. And then the next time you could get it was Obnixus drops. So there were some of these that were like you did a summon, and like when you got the summon, there was like a coin that you got with it, and you could exchange for it. So I didn't do that premium summon. The first time I ever got this was in the Obnixus drop Blaze shop. So there's actually theoretically, without this bonus shop that came in, you could have 4 copies of this already.
People were saying the barrel tickets were a bad idea.
I don't know.
Nothing in comparison.
Yeah, and Way of the Samurai was the same thing, I believe. That you could also have gotten that off of a premium exchange summon or something like that.
I remember the shop now. Yeah.
Yes.
There is like 4 different things that you could get, and I also skipped that.
Yep. I think we're getting to some other ones that are on that list, like Prideful Incarnate. I think is another one that's on there. So, anyways, Way of the Samurai, we're saying skip. Dragonfly Destroyer. Attack and magic 70% with 50% dragon and insect killer for physical and magic.
So I will say I have used this a lot. So when gearing units, especially if you haven't done item world, a lot of units fall a little short of like attack and magic caps. So like I'll just throw this on there as an extra, and if it's like, oh cool, it's extra killers may become relevant. One thing I really like about these, and like will matter more in the future, is perimeter boosts get higher. So having 70% stats and killers on something, because not everything's 3 or 4 races, right? That's like a very rare thing. Like even in trial content coming, it's a very rare thing, right? So like 70% stats, which is very much needed. Y'all will find out when we hit MV Plus, it's very much needed.
Yep.
On like every piece of gear that you put on there. And 2 killers, one of which being uncommon. I've just used this like a good bit. Like Dragon Killer is like super common, right? But like Insect Killer is not like overly common. It's like on the rarer side of them. So, like I think you could put this in. It's probably like kind of niche right now, but I think in the future that this becomes very valuable, and I feel that way about all of the killers available in the game that have high stats on it.
I think this is very valuable because of the insect killer alone, insect plus the attack and magic stat. I think this is very valuable.
Yeah, you don't get it. Like I'm not gonna argue with it. Like it's either the top of niche and will become valuable or very valuable to me. So like very valuable like makes sense. Like I need to make a list of like every killer in the game at some point.
Why? You can just go to ffbekillers.com.
Well, I was gonna say that I have on my account.
Oh, okay. Oh, you have on your account. Yes.
Yeah. So I have on my account, so I can figure out what all of the high stats ones that I'm missing, and like prioritize trying to get them because how much more they matter in the MV Plus era.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big deal. Let's go to the next one then. Prideful Incarnate. This one is 80% magic with 3 stats on it. 80% resistance to water, earth, and light.
I'm not a fan.
You're not a fan.
So
even though it has 80%
like,
magic.
It does have 80% magic, but how often do you like need to full resist your DPS?
I very seldom equip this ability. I have it. I have 2 of them. I very seldom use it.
Yeah, like I have it. It has nice stats, and then like again, if it lines up with the trial or something like that, and you need resist, this is like very niche to be. Like when it lines up, it's going to be very good for the few fights where you have to resist gear your DPS, but most of the time you're just gear resisting your tank, which doesn't want this at all.
I end up using this more often for the resistances than anything else, honestly. Yeah. I don't remember the last time I used Prideful Incarnate on an actual mage. So I'm going to say it's niche. Sorry, as great as it is. Niche does not be bad though, right? So niche items could be very, very good, but they're just so specific that maybe for like general purpose, maybe not every player needs them.
Correct. Yeah, like it's just not a massive priority, right?
So if we said that Dragonfly Destroyer was very valuable, this one is, I would say, more valuable because it's the same thing.
Yes.
It's aquatic and plant, and aquatic and plant is way more rare than dragon and insect.
Yeah, so spoiler alert. Because of the actual combination of these two, this is actually on my potential buy list.
Okay.
Like it's only a 2 killer, but it goes back to the stats thing, and this is a stats thing with 2 uncommon killers.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's on the lower end, and like I probably won't end up getting it because I'm just gonna have to like not get everything that I want, right? But like this is an actual consideration point for me because it's 2 uncommon killers and the stats that I was talking about that matter so much for MV+.
Yeah.
So like it is a very good thing.
I remember for a while back when Liv Dilly used to do unit reviews, like when they would show the gearing for potential like races and stuff like that, they always used aquatic and stone or something like that, just because it was like stupid ones that you could never gear for and like make it really hard to gear for. And it's because there's nothing in the game that does aquatic, so this plus stats for aquatic alone is really good, and plant is, you know, up there too. There's more plant than aquatic for sure, but like aquatic is so uncommon, especially for like normal trial rewards that you can get just from playing content in the game. There's so little for aquatic. So yeah, TMRs and STMRs is one thing, but like actual stuff that you can get for free, this one's really, really good.
I would actually argue that Seafood and Dragonfly are better than most killer STMRs. Like going forward, again, it's just like the stats thing is such a big deal with me if you're wanting to hit the new caps.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Cold Current. So this is like Prideful Incarnate, but a little different. So it's got 80% magic, 5% MP restore with 80% ice and lightning.
This one is a lot worse than Prideful Incarnate. I actually give 0 cares about the 5% MP restoration. This is 1 less resist.
Yeah, this is fewer resistances. And in fact, Prideful, hold on, did Prideful have ice on it as well? No, it didn't. So this has different resistances than Prideful, but it has the MP restore too, which I think matters less and less. You know, so many units are just like have that baked in, or we have other ways of filling MP that don't matter so much. Like I feel like it's better to have like MP cost reduction than MP restore at this point in the game. So I think this is niche.
This is niche, like next to replaceable for me. I think being able to, doing 2 resists is actually like reasonably replaced.
Yeah.
Doing 3 gets harder, which is why I think the other one is niche, because like it's 3 resists, right? So if 2 of those 3 resists line up, you're gonna get a lot of value, where this needs probably both of them to line up in the same fight for me to want to use it. Like pretty close to that, which is asking a lot. I don't know. It's the bottom of niche. If this ends up being the bottom of niche, I wouldn't be surprised. Like this is really pushing it for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious to hear what you say about this one. Light armor mastery, right? So it lets you wear light armor and then gives you 50% to every stat.
Okay, so if you're somebody who wants to be serious about the game with Clash Wheels and stuff like that, personal opinion, this is must-have. This is either must-have or like the very top of valuable, and I feel the same way about the thing after it because they designed units that can't equip all the Clash of Wheels gear, and you want to be able to equip all the Clash of Wheels gear at all times because it's the best gear in the game, pretty much. So like having access to these things. Also, one really cool thing about light armor mastery with like all the stats that it gives is it gives HP.
Yep.
The other stuff is like really cool too for like your DPS not dying, but the HP means like doesn't matter what the role is of the character equipping this, they will be able to use it. It is actually an STMR, like a high-end STMR level piece of materia to me. Even if you don't have the Clash of Wheels gear, if you have good high-end light armors, the stats that this one piece gives is more than most STMRs.
For sure.
So like I think these are very valuable.
There's also no other source of it, right? I don't think there's another source of equipable light armor.
I don't think so. I can check really quick.
Yeah. There isn't equipped clothes, but I don't think there's equipable light armor. So because...
there is.
What is it?
It's equip light armor.
Oh, equip light armor. Okay.
It was in the sealed tower on level 2.
Oh, that's right. That was a new thing. Yeah.
But
That's
like,
right. But a lot of players can't do
comparison
that.
between these two.
But
Yeah, I was about to say that's not a good place for that to be because
that's
a lot
not,
of people can't
and a
clear
lot of
that.
people cannot clear that. And this is far and away better than equip light armor.
Yeah.
So
You don't want to be using a slot up for equip light armor.
not if you have this. This is so much better. And I feel a little bit. I feel very similarly about equip helmet, right? Or helm mastery. While there is an equip helm ability, for the same reason, why would you use that when you have this? Like I think this is must have, because especially because the offensive head slot item in Clash of Wheels is a helmet at this point. So I'm putting it right here at the top. Helm.
Something that's worth an additional note, and like people will know this from me because like there's a lot of memes about it. So recently with anniversary stuff, you were like able to select a unit, right? Genesis was on that list.
Yep.
Genesis needs sources of MP, which is not the easiest thing to gear for.
Nope.
These materials both have 50% MP on them.
Yes, they do. That's I used that one, and then the one that you get from beating the Sephiroth fight all the time for Genesis.
Yeah. So like, if you're somebody that's like active in the community and knows how good Genesis is, like this is a good free option for you to do for gearing stuff if you may have missed this Clash of Wheels or the Clash of Wheels that came out with.
And or Genesis is great, or Tyvis, or other units that have MP scaling abilities. I mean, Genesis is like the arguably the best one, but yeah.
I was just thinking that you could select him for free, right?
Yes.
So like if you were like if you got a ticket, you got the Lapis replica ticket. I think he's been on 2 of them now.
Yeah.
So like maybe I was trying to remember if Tyvis was on a selector.
He was
might
not,
have been.
because premiums aren't usually on selects.
That's true. It's so hard to keep up with. They gave us a lot of free stuff.
They did.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at these next one. These next two are very similar. Priestess's Vengeance is 60% ice, water, earth, and dark. That allows you to counter when you receive physical attacks with the Vengeful and Morale ability, which fills morale 100 for the party. Only physical attacks, not magical attacks. Worth noting, right? Because like the current Clash of Wills, you want to have ice and earth resist, but the boss does no physical attacks. So this effect is basically worthless on this current Clash of Wills.
Yeah, this is niche for me. Like this is just like
agree.
This is just like the same thing as earlier, like with Reclaim Serenity that has like 4 resist. My my issue with these kind of things are if they don't line up, they don't do anything. Well, like yeah, well, why would you run him? Here's the thing about Vengeance though. It just doesn't have stats on it.
Yeah.
So like, in my opinion, it's worse than Reclaimed Serenity because this is asking for a particular thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one just has stats and resist for that you know are going to happen, or you wouldn't have it equipped.
Right.
So I think this one is just worse than Reclaimed Serenity, which is weird because it definitely came out afterwards. And I feel the exact same way about the next one as well.
So Priest is the same. It's just different elements, right? So it's 60% fire, lightning, wind, and light, and does the same counter fill thing. You can only counter twice. Can only basically give you 200 morale a turn. I feel like it'd be better just to equip something that gave you 200 morale a turn, realistically. So
Correct.
if you were looking for the morale fill, like just because like if you put this on a tank that needs it for the resistances, and like if the boss doesn't do physical attacks, it doesn't do physical attacks. So I still use it though, but that's the whole point of niche, right? I feel like a lot of this stuff is going to land in niche category. So wing clipping. Wing clipping is no stats, 50% beast, bird, dragon, and insect, physical and magic.
This is one of the best things in the entire shop. I use this all the time. Quad killers, 1 slots, very valuable.
I don't think it's must-have. I think it's very valuable though.
No, I don't think it's must-have because like there are sources for other killers in the game that you can get for free.
Mm-hmm.
But the convenience of having this is like very high, and if you have other things in the shop, or like you have some of the other things in the shop, like it is something you can consider getting. Because there's a chance that some of you have stuff, like maybe you have a couple of things in the must-have slot, but you don't have any of the other things, right?
Right.
Like that maybe it just depends on when you slot, because these things have only been around once, right? So like if you miss them, you miss them.
With the exception of Reclaimed Serenity and Way of the Samurai, yes.
But quad killers get used all the time. If I would say though, if this had stats on it, I'd probably put it in must-have for sure.
I agree.
Like if this was another one of those like 70% magic and attack on it, like this might be the best thing in the entire shop.
4 killers plus stats is pretty rad, right? Perfect Provocation has no benefit other than giving you 100% draw attacks in a single slot.
This is also very valuable to me. Another thing that I use all the time, because sometimes you don't want to use a tank and you just need a provoker that just you give some element resistance or like full dodge, and you're just like, all right, cool.
But you could also just be like Durandal, Moogle Charm, Danger gets the blood pumping, and call it a day. So in that sense, I think it's replaceable.
Okay, so I could see that. This is more of a convenience thing, right?
Oh, definitely, for 100% sure. Convenience.
So like, I think it depends on where your account is. Like, I guess we're looking at like if somebody doesn't actually have like a lot of things on this list, which means like they either pretty casual or like have a bit around. So at that point, I would put it in replaceable. But I think as you like get pickier and pickier about your slots that you want for your personal account, that this goes up. But for right now, it's probably not. Like, it's very valuable to vets and very replaceable for not.
Yeah.
Because like the amount of extra it gives you is not that much, right? Like saving a slot maybe on your character. So like yeah, I think I'd put this in replaceable now you talked about it.
Okay. Because it's just so easy to recover this. That doesn't make it bad.
Right.
I have more than once skipped using this because I don't want to look like a I don't want to say whale, but like cheesy person who has everything, you know? So like when I'm gearing for a trial, I'll sometimes be like, well, let's just skip using Perfect Provocation, even though it's totally better. You know, like I can get around it. Like it's just convenience. So I'm gonna say it's replaceable. Heavy armor mastery. Same as light armor and helmet, but heavy armor.
Oh, very good. I actually had like a weird fight that I used this on a DPS recently to just add resist. Because all the heavy armor has like awesome element resist on it if you have like some of the SCMR and stuff like that. So like I've thrown this on there, lost like, I don't know, 200 or 300 attack, whatever. But got a bunch of, and then like I think that's better of a slot than like even if you're just using it for that reason, is better of a slot than the resist materials because you can pick which resist that you put on if you have the gear for it, and also this has other stats on it for survivability, right? So like the other ones weren't like, hey, I have HP on there, for example.
Yeah.
So I think like even no matter what you were using this for, it's still better than.
It's better than equip.
Like
I think there is an equip heavy armor, isn't there? I think it was like
Experience
TMR. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it was the one thing he couldn't wear.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah, very strange. Okay. Supernatural Subversion. 50% attack and magic with 4 killers on it. Aquatic Demon Fairy Reaper. I think this is very valuable. At the very least, very valuable.
Alright, so I said what I said earlier on purpose.
About wing clipping,
because I knew some
right?
of this stuff. Yeah, because I knew more stuff was coming. Add on to the fact that I think this killer combination is more valuable than wing clippings as well. I think Subversion is the very bottom of must-have.
At the very bottom of must-have. Okay. You know what? I'm going to give you this one. I'm going to give you this one.
All right. So my argument is, obviously we're putting these like in some of an order, or we can reorder them at the end.
Yeah, we'll reorder them.
My argument is this has stats. This has 3 uncommon killers.
Fairy, Reaper, and Aquatic specifically.
Right. Yeah. So like, this is probably like a top 5 most used materials for me in the entire game. Because
when the race combination is there, it's very, very good.
Huh? Did you say? Sorry.
Oh, when the race combination is there, it's super, super valuable. So like, the Inugami Clash of Wills had Fairy, Reaper, Beast, right? So like, this was super valuable.
There's been a lot of Clash of Wills that have 2 or 3 of this color combination because they're intentionally using it because they're uncommon. Like, anyways, I use this thing a lot. I could be convinced that it's the top of very valuable, but if you told me that that's ended the list at the bottom of must-have, I would, like, it makes sense to me.
Sounds good. Mystic Acuity. Same thing. Beast, Human, Machine, Reaper.
This is more of a very valuable thing to me because two of those races are very common.
Human is the most common killer in the game. Demon's right behind it. Beast is kind of rare. Machine is rare, but there are several high value machine ones. So like Cindy's mechanic for the royal family, Cal's anti-armor something or other, anti-armor tactics. Like there's multiple 100 sources. Beast as well has multiple 100 sources. Reaper and Human don't have 100s, but they both have 75s. I feel like it's still very valuable though.
Oh yeah, like this is probably gonna end up near the top of very valuable for me. Like I think Machine's common enough because there's things like you can even get like 5 stars are very easy to get, right? Like regular 5 stars, right? There's things like Olive's Journal is not even a bad piece of gear for people to use that I've used myself, and I just need more machine killer when we're covering 3 races and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, I think it's good. If the machine killer was something a little bit rare, I'd probably put it in must-have. Like, if it was Aquatic or something like that, like you could probably just convince me like this is also must-have because it has stats, which again doesn't matter like the most right now, but it's going to matter very soon. And machine killer is like teetering on like we have enough where it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, like there are some good there's some really, really good sources, like you said, like if you play during Nier, like A2's STMR, just bonkers. Yeah. For example, stuff like that. But I'm not gonna assume that people have stuff like that.
Right.
So like this is probably just very valuable to me. It's probably top of very valuable.
Yeah. It's so assuming that like Irvin's STMR, right? So like the 5-star Irvin's STMR has Beast and Machine at 100 but no stats on it. This is 50% Beast and Machine with stats on it. Like, and I use Irvin's all the time. So like this is better. Just it's this, you know, overall better. So cool. Mystic Tenacity. 50% HP, defense and spirit 50%. Every turn gives you 25% mitigation for beast, human, machine, and reaper until you die. And it comes back when you re-raise.
This is either very niche or replaceable to me. Like, I just don't think overly too highly of this. I've used it once since I got it. A lot of things have to line up because if it's the enemy's multiple types and they're not on that list, then you get even less production than you would normally.
Right. There's better ways to get 50% to all those stats, right? So you could put on one of the masteries, for example, if that's all you're using this for. But if you happen to be fighting a beast human machine or a beast human reaper or a machine reaper or, you know, something like a human beast like we're fighting right now, this becomes very valuable. But if it's not, there's better ways to get 50% of those stats. So I'm going to say niche.
Yeah, that's fair to me.
Yeah. Mystic Tenacity. I will say, though, my Elena's wearing it right now in Clash of Wills.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's very good right now.
Yeah. And then the two that nobody has unless you bought them already this week, Cyclopedia Mythica Eradication. 50% attack and magic with 75% demon, dragon, insect, and plant.
So I think this is the best thing in the shop. I don't think it's remotely close. This has stats. This has 2 rare killers on it. And the common killers are 75, which can save you a slot.
Yep, absolutely.
Because of how it lines up with Asper's. This is an extremely good piece of gear.
Yeah.
And likely something I will be buying.
I think it's valuable. I don't know. So you said supernatural subversion. Let's compare this side by side, right? So supernatural subversion was 50% to different, so rarer races, 50% to rarer races and lower or the same stats. Eradication is 50% or 75% to demon and dragon, which are really common, and then insect and plant. So it's 50% better for the uncommon races. And you put supernatural subversion in must-have, very bottom must-have. Would you say this is must-have as well?
Yeah, I think this is probably the best materia in the shop. Like, in my opinion, I don't know if this one is skippable. Like, if I had to pick one, this is probably my pick because the reason is, so it has stats, right? So like, if it didn't have stats, I would definitely be lower on it. It has stats. Clash of Wills has shown that it's going to be a lot of 3-race things. The more 4-race materials we get, because you know they're going to make more than now that this one exists. You can start stacking them together and covering things that are very hard to cover while not losing stats. What do we get if you get to a point where like you need 3 killers and an elemental resist on your DPS? If we get to that point, right? Stuff like this is going to be invaluable, where you have like 2 different ones and they make up the killers that you need. This has stats for what's it called? MV plus, like when we get there. It's even better if these are killers that the DPS that you put it on, if they don't have them, because like as their main or whatever, if it's a non-premium. So like this will be even easier things to gear non-premiums for. If you need multiple of these, because common races are not, if they have 0 and 8, they are not easy to gear. So like, let's say that you have the common ones. Let's say the boss is a demon dragon. Okay, you still need to get to 300% for both. So you get 1 Esper. That's 125. So like that's 200 for one. You still have to you have 3 slots now to make up 100 on one and 100 and 225 on the other. If you have 2 of these, that is doable. Without like wearing some like really weird gear, right? That is doable. So like even though 2 of them are common, once we hit the 75% mark, you can start gearing characters that don't have any innate of the killers that you need. and still be able to gear them for the fight without like losing a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I mean, I'm definitely. This is one that I'm considering buying just because it's brand new and we don't have anything with this combination of stuff on it. I don't know that I would put it in must-have. I'd put it in very valuable personally, but I can see your logic there.
Again, like the only reason like I'm putting it there for the most part is like it has the stats too, and I'm just thinking ahead for right now. Like I would probably have it in subversion like at the top of very valuable, but like it's so close that it's hard to not talk about.
Yeah.
Right?
Now we'll talk about my next question in just a minute because we have one more piece of gear to go through, and that is the Cyclopedia Mytha Preservation. It is the same thing as Mystic Tenacity, but it has Demon, Dragon, Insect, and Plant on it instead of the other ones.
So that's a lot more mitigate.
It is. So the other one was 25%, right?
Yeah.
Mystic Tenacity was 25%. This is 50. So there's definitely some power creep there.
But it is a very, very
it's huge.
good material.
I think it's better than niche. I mean, it's still it's still niche, right?
Like,
because if you don't need it, you don't need it. Like, if there's better ways to get the 50%, like, but there's no other way to get the 50% to the mitigations.
This is either the top of niche or the bottom of very valuable.
Yeah.
I think once we hit 4 races, you can talk about that being valuable because it's going to come up enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you told me, like, for the reason that you gave that it was niche, like, it's the top of niche to me, like, I think this one is also a strong consideration for something that people want to get. However, I think this is something that scales with people's account, because this kind of thing is not necessary until you're trying to do the utmost hardest stuff that's in the game, right?
That
so,
happens
like, you know
to line
where your
up
account,
with those races.
Yeah, so, like, you know where your account lines up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you are on the newer end, I don't think this is very valuable. I think there are a lot more things on this list that are more valuable to a newer player.
Mm-hmm.
If you are somebody that's trying to rank 1 Clash of Wills, something like this could be closer to must-have, for example, because like this may push you over the edge of you being able to survive with all the mods on and getting your rank 1,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the fight, right? So like I can see all kinds of different things. I think it's once you start getting your account and you start doing the harder content, this becomes more valuable. But if you're on the new, if you're on the newer end, this is just a niche thing that'd be cool. Like hope it shows up again at some other place.
Yeah. Okay. So there's our list of where we put all 18 of these. So I'm gonna start at the bottom, right? Do we want to change the order for Way of the Samurai, or do we want to leave it where it is? Skip.
We can put it in. Feel bad if you bought this.
Feel bad if you bought it. Oh, way to rub it in. Way to rub it in.
Well, you use a different currency, right? Like that currency.
It had to have been a different currency. Yeah.
You weren't buying that with Xenostone,
No,
right? Like, so
no.
like if you it doesn't matter. That was a currency that we always end up with a little bit extra of. So it's like, maybe you never know. I'll buy this. Like, so that doesn't
That had
matter.
to have been why
But
I picked it up. Yeah.
If you're buying it with Xenostone shards, like, okay,
Don't do
we need to
that.
have a talk.
Don't do that. And we still feel the same way about Perfect Provocation, right? Because like while it's very good at what it does, there are multiple ways you can get that effect without having to.
It's a convenient thing. It's not necessary whatsoever.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about the niches. First of all, do we need to move any of these niche items out of niche?
I'm gonna look at cold again.
Cold Current, let me put that up. It is Cold Current is 80% magic, 5% MP, 80% lightning and ice.
It's cool if it lines up, but like that's so specific. Like that might be closer to replaceable for me. Like it, or maybe even just not getting it. Like a skip, because like it has to line up so well for it to be better than 2 slots.
Right. And if you're just using it for the magic, there's other ways to get that magic stat. And in fact, a lot of units don't even need it right now. In the future, though, NV plus and 80% to their magic stat could be valuable.
You could stay the volatile niche, but like if you wanted to put it in replaceable or even skip, like I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't argue with you. Like I am not a fan of this one at all. I don't use it. I might have used it once the entire time I've owned it.
I mean, I'm not currently planning on buying a third copy of it, if that's what you're saying. Like, we'll talk more about that in a second. I feel pretty good about the niche list. I don't feel... Do we want to change the order of the niche list at all?
Move cold current down like 4 slots.
I'm not doing that. That would mess up my table.
No, like I feel like we kind of like nailed it for the most part. Like they were niche, but they started being like a better niche as we went on, which is kind of like the order that we went in, right? Mm-hmm. So like I feel like pretty good about it.
Yeah. I feel like I've tried to use Priestess and Priest's Vengeance multiple times, and I never get any value out of like even the morale effect. Like I try to, I'm like, oh cool, it's gonna do physical attacks. I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna get morale counters, and like it never works. Like I don't feel like it does anything. So yeah, I like it. I like the way we've got it.
I tried using one of the Vengeances plus counter materia.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get procs to try to cheese through some stuff. And still not worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
like there will come a time where like you're gonna want them, right? Because it's gonna line up with a fight, right?
Yeah.
Like, just the way it's designed, but it just that we haven't had it yet.
Yep. Okay, Mystic Acuity, Wing Clipping, Seaweed Slayer, Dragonfly Destroyer, Cyclopedia Mytha, Preservation. How do we feel about the order? And well, first of all, do we need to move any of these out of the category for very valuable?
No, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Like, it's a bunch of like stats killers, and like,
yeah,
some of them are like major stats, but rare killers. Some of them like Acuity has 4 killers. Like, in stats, like there's no way that I don't think anybody can convince me that Mystic Acuity isn't valuable when it has stats and 4 killers.
Yep.
Like,
what do you think about the order? So the order, we've got Preservation at the bottom, Dragonfly Destroyer, Seaweed Slayer, Wing Clipping, and then Mystic Acuity at the top. Do you want to move the order of them around? Because I'm just gonna like drag them into the right slots at this point.
I'm really looking at them.
Yep.
Exact. Seaweed. Dragon in. Oh, okay. So we can have this discussion.
Okay.
How do you feel about Cyclopedia Mythic preservation on this list? Because I'm happy with the other order of the other 4, because like Seafood Slayer has rarer killers than Dragonfly does. The Wing Clipping has 4. Right. So, like, where do you feel about Cyclopedia Mythic preservation on this list?
I almost feel like, I mean, I feel like it's high niche. Now that I'm looking at
see, that's the discussion I wanted to have. I was just like, so do we keep it at the bottom of very valuable? Because I think the killers are more valuable than that. Or do you think it's a top of niche, and like when it comes up, it's going to be like one of the best things you have?
I feel like it's the top of niche.
Yeah. Like it has to line up, and it has a good chance of lining up, right? Like 4 types is a lot.
Yeah.
It's just if it doesn't, like, why are you equipping this?
It's 4 types with very high mitigation amount, which is what makes it better, that much better than Mystic Tenacity.
Is it undispellable?
It is permanent. Yeah, it stays on until you die.
So yes, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
Because
cool.
what it effectively does is it refreshes every turn until you die.
Yeah.
And you can put it in a shift form and switch forms, and it'll stay there. So yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Light armor mastery, helm mastery, heavy armor, Mythica eradication, and supernatural subversion. Do you feel like this is money where your mouth is, right? Do you feel like the masteries are better than stats and killers?
So like
I have to
that's a
fix
very
this.
like account-based thing.
It's a very account-based thing.
So like my problem is, I think on a super new account, I think the masteries is more valuable because you won't have a lot of gear and you want to be able to equip what you have.
Right.
Can't guarantee that you're gonna have a specific unit that can equip everything. A lot of units recently haven't been able to equip everything. So like if you're on a very newer end account, I shouldn't say very. I think if you're on like a lower to mid account where you don't have a ton of gear, being able to equip your best gear at all times is a big deal.
Yeah. Now,
So
I will say this
like,
though.
if you're on
dollar percentage point per percentage point, killers and other modifier boosts increase your damage output higher than a stat boost increase. Because of the way the formula works, killers provide you with more damage and more mitigation and more everything. Like modifier boosts are better than stats. So in that sense, I feel like the eradication and the subversion are kind of better if your aim is to do as much damage as possible. However, these three are basically unique, right? The mastery effect of being able to allow you to equip something and get stats off of it is something that nothing else in the game provides.
like, I think for the newer end accounts that aren't just worried about doing as much damage as you can because you're able to beat everything anyway, you just want to be able to equip gear. I think they are better. I think once you get to like a mid to higher level account where you want to do really hard fights, and you're looking out into the future for like MV plus, I think the killers are at the top.
Cool.
So like it really just depends on what kind of account you want. So like, looking at a lower end account, like I would consider the equip things because like you said, they're like nothing else really does this. I think people want to be able to start the game and equip gear immediately they want to have. Like what if you started with somebody like they stopped doing Veritas of the Frost, right? Veritas of the Frost doesn't have a weapon STMR.
Correct.
Right. So like,
and he has like no options for what he can equip too. Yeah.
So like, let's say that's one of the guys that you start with. Which, by the way, I think Veritas of the Frost is one of the best units of the game for what it's worth. But he has spear and katana, right? Let's say that you have an STMR, but it's a greatsword. That's like your only good weapon. For example, or like. The point I was getting with is there's gear that lets you equip other weapon types. So if he can't equip that gear, then you can get one of these. It's a long way of going around it, but it lets you use gear that you want to use, right?
Right.
So like, there's armors out there, elemental resist and stuff like that regular DPS can't wear all the time. Maybe the heavy armor mastery is really good at being tanky. Light armor and the helm mastery are a big deal because of Clash of Wills.
Right.
Like the Clash of Wills gear is like the best or some of the best gear in the entire game.
Well, it's the thing about it like this. So an item like this or an ability like this basically says, okay, let's say I want to wear a chest piece that happens to have 50% human killer on it, right? But no other things except for just like, attack, magic, defense, whatever. By equipping, by putting on like light armor mastery and then putting on that chest piece that has 50% human killer on it, now I'm getting 50% human killer, 50% to all stats, and everything else that goes along with that item. It's just like cherry on top.
Yeah, like let me put myself in this position. Like, which one of these? Like, if I have 5K, what would I buy?
Well, that's gonna be our next question. So, like, let's say you've got 5K. Like, realistically, I don't want to go below 5K, knowing that we probably have a new item coming out next month. If I had five of these items to pick, right, as a new player, what would we choose? And we have 5 items right here on the must-have category. But like, what would you choose with 5K?
Well, I think I buy everything in S except for the heavy armor mastery. I think it's the least valuable of the 3.
Okay.
And I buy 2 Cyclopedias.
So you would do light armor 1, Helm Mastery 1, 2 Cyclopedia Mythicas, and 1 Supernatural Subversion.
Yeah, I think I would do that. Like you get the least, like, not to say the heavy armor mastery isn't valuable, but it's the least valuable of the three to me.
Yeah.
And I personally value the killers a lot.
Yeah. Now that's assuming you're a new account that does not have any of these, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I think
I would consider that.
I agree.
Sure.
Yeah. New account that doesn't have anything, I would say at least one of the 3 masteries. And then I would choose, just for my personal play style, I would probably choose like Reclaim Serenity, and probably Mythica Eradication. So yeah, I would just not do Subversion. I would grab 1 Reclaim Serenity just because I do like the stats on it, like me personally. But you know, everybody else is a little different.
They're definitely enticing people to spend their points though, which also brings me to like another point of,
Yeah.
we need to figure out what like's in the next Clash Wheel shop, because this could be like, hey, we're about to power creep. We just wanted you to spend gems, like, and that wouldn't be wrong of them, right? Like that, like this is like, these things are good, right? It's not like like, even if they made something that you also want to spill Xenostones on, you got to remember that those things don't leave, right? Like you can always just like, it take a little bit longer to make them. These things might not come back, right? Like this 4 killers with stats on it, like that's instantly one of the best things in the entire game.
Oh, I agree. It's very good. That's why I put it in must-have. But I don't know that every player, you know, if you're just starting out, like I don't know that it would be my first pick, because it's 4 things that are rare, but don't always show up. Like, you know, if you don't need it, you don't need it. Then now it's just a 70% attack and magic.
So the only reason that I may disagree, yeah, I think I disagree.
Okay.
Is we don't know when these are coming back.
Right.
And as a new player, if you are listening to other people's videos, you will know that eventually you will get use out of this.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, you
So,
totally
like,
will.
You may not want to miss out on it. Is all.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean like doing what I would do is correct and getting 2 of it? Maybe not. Maybe you only get 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get like a Cyclopedia, a Subversion, 2 of the masteries, and then like something from the very valuable or the niche. Like maybe you have something specific, like you like Reclaim Serenity. It's good, right? Like you could choose that, right? Maybe you want Mystic Acuity because you just want a different like selection of killers. So like maybe they cross-reference with each other. Maybe you want different things, right? There's a chance that you want Preservation because you decided this was the first Clash of Wills that you want to try really hard on, and it helps you survive.
Yeah.
Like there's different arguments for like different things, right? It just depends on like what your specific goal is. But I'm like 90% sure that I'm gonna spend 3K and buy both Eradications and a Subversion is likely what I'm doing.
Okay.
And then sitting around 48.
Yeah. So here's something else that's worth noting. So if you look at the red square here, this shop is only available from 12/20 until 1/10. Why that is relevant and important is that on January 1st, we should get a monthly bulletin that tells us what the next month's Clash of Wills race combination is, and you know, usually a little bit of information about like what types of attacks the boss does, what its weaknesses are, and things like that. So that information may be very valuable to know, like, okay, all of a sudden, if I already have 1 of all of these or 2 of all of these, but maybe I'm holding off because I don't want to get the Mythica yet. But maybe on January 1st we find out that, you know, this boss is a dragon insect plant. You know, now all of a sudden the Eradication and the Preservation become very, very good, and like instantly buy 2 of them. So I'm actually kind of leaning for myself, like with what kind of account I have and what I already have access to. I'm already kind of leaning towards buying both Eradications and Preservation. I just want to see what comes out on January 1st.
Yeah, like I think for us, so like we're wanting Clash of Wills, like mess around with dark vision, stuff like that. Stuff like this is just like invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
That's not gonna be. It's obviously not gonna be the case for like every account. And like if you're somebody that doesn't really care about those things, you're just a casual player. Those things lose value a lot.
They do.
Like if you're just somebody that wants to like mess around with random units and trials, like then you just have fun doing that. Like you're gonna have different priorities depending on like what you want to do with stuff. Like maybe like
Mm-hmm.
the draw attacks material becomes more interesting to you because you miss the draw attack options.
Yeah.
Like the Moogle charms, you miss those. Like maybe it becomes more like interesting to you. Like there's a bunch of different things depending on account, but we just wanted to do this like based on like if you had none of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because to show you value, because there's gonna be a lot of people that like don't have a lot of this stuff, right? Like people are coming into the game all the time, in and out of the game, and like take breaks, or you're a new player or whatever.
Yep.
And like you can miss out with stuff, a lot of the stuff, because a lot of it's like only been available once. Like there's been a couple that haven't, but like
Yeah. Also worth saying, you know, we probably should have said this at the very beginning. This is just strictly opinion. You could approach this in a lot of different ways. You could like assign numerical values to like each one of these things and like weigh it out and like determine like how many points each specific thing gets and try and make decisions like that way. But like that's just one way of looking at it. It's another way of looking at it is like kind of practicality and like knowing what combinations are good and knowing that Aquatic Killer is really worth more than Dragon Killer or Demon Killer, and things like that. So these are just opinions. If you think Sketch and I are wrong, by all means, you know, tell us in the comment. Tell us where you would pick, what you would pick, where your opinion is different. Because if nothing else, I wanted to have a conversation about it, because I think with as expensive as these items are, someone needs to be having a conversation about like what could players really benefit from, for all of these. Like, you know, like I said before, I've already got one copy, if not two, of every one of these things except for the newest ones. So like for me, that conversation is really just like, what's gonna be most convenient? What do I think is good? I don't think there's really a whole lot that I want to go back and buy additional copies of for 1,000. But I'm definitely looking really well at those new ones. So
something of note,
Yeah.
like us waiting for the Clashable shop information for the next one. There's a small chance that like these two newest ones are in the new Clashable shop,
entirely possible.
which may make you want to like pick other things. Like not saying those other things are better, but like they're limited, right? And you may have missed them, and then you can always just use the new shard material or whatever they call the drops.
The
That
Obnixus
Clashables
drops.
to pick
Yeah.
those up. Now,
Maybe. We don't know that.
personally. No, yeah. No, I mean like I'm just saying it's a good reason to wait, right?
Yeah.
But like me personally, if I wait and I find out those two are the same two, I might still buy like the Cybers.
Well, they're not gonna tell us though, most likely what the end of because Clash of Wills tends to be like week 3, week 4, right? We will not usually get information about the Clash by the 10th.
That's true. Yeah, they wouldn't let us that.
Yeah.
Oh well. It was a nice thought.
It is a nice thought. Maybe
but
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll get to see what it is that far in advance. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably not. I'm just wishful thinking over here, but I mostly just wanted to say because it's like I think I might buy 4 of those. Like I will get like tons of uses out of these things.
Yeah.
The only complaint that I have is I wish that it was a little cheaper. Like if they were like 500 to 700 a piece, I would be way more inclined to buy more, right? Like, I think that if they were even just 700 a piece, I'd 100% get the Cyclopedias. I'd probably get both subversions and
Now-
probably a wing clapping and a mystic Acuity.
Okay. Now, when does the current Clash of Wills close? I can't remember. Current Clash of Wills closes in 11 days. So I'm pulling the calendar up.
Third.
The 3rd. Yeah, so you will not get your payout from this current one until the next one's... You won't even get your payout before the next one starts. So, like, you have to make up your mind before this banner closes. Yep.
But it's like really cool. Like when they announced this, all of us were excited. It's like, oh,
Oh yeah, totally. I think it's
so
great.
that could be like really cool. So I didn't think we were getting anything new, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, we knew we were because
Which, I mean-
what they said in the stream. They showed that there's no abilities, but yeah. They
Oh, I don't remember
previewed
that.
these.
Well, then I goofed.
Yeah, you're a goof, Sketch. Come on.
I goofed.
All
I
right.
don't remember that from the stream. Too many streams. We had 2 streams back to back, basically.
We did. They were both good though. I mean, I felt like
They were.
I feel like the community stream was better, but I feel like they were both good.
I'm using that as a scapegoat. We had back to back streams. I can't remember all the information from both streams.
Well, and you weren't in the beige carpet on the second one, so yeah.
Also true.
Also true. You have to come back for the next one.
Best FFBE content there is. Make sure to watch.
Yeah.
But like no, this shop's really cool. I'm excited for it. And the coolest thing about this shop is it's no matter what level of player you are going to find something of use in this shop.
Absolutely. You just got to know what to look for. If you've got questions about like where we drop things or where we place things or how we valued things, and I know we've kind of talked it to death, but feel free to drop us a comment and we will try to answer it and tell us that we're wrong too, and we'll try to answer that too. Yeah. Otherwise, I think we're done.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
If people like this kind of content, make sure to let Gert know, because there's always there's always a decent amount of stuff always to discuss like during the weeks.
If there's something else that you want us to like kind of prioritize and look at together, whether it's Sketch or somebody else joining me along that process, Sketch was just the first person to come to mind that I wanted to talk about this with. Yeah, let us know. We'll find something to do. We got not a whole lot else going on other than eating Christmas cookies and singing Jingle Bells. So
yeah.
Hey, did you get your rank 1 yet?
No.
You lazy bum. Go get your rank 1. All right, guys.
Yeah. You don't even know. It'll get done like
Last minute.
3 days before it ends.
Yeah, last minute. You're turning into Hazino. That's what you're doing. Okay. Well, thanks for guys for watching this for all this time. It's been fun, and we will see you in the next one, whatever it is. Stay tuned. Be good to each other. Take care.
Yeah.